couple months ago, David Miliband, the current Foreign Secretary, apologized to his Israeli counterpart, Victor Lieberman, after what they call the humiliation and embarrassment caused by the issuing of a court warrant for the arrest of Tzipi Livni, the former Israeli foreign minister. Under Article 146 of the 4th Geneva Convention, Britain has an obligation to search for persons alleged to have committed and shall bring such persons, regardless of their nationality, before its own court. This is in the 4th Geneva Convention. Yet, Miliband and his Prime Minister Gordon Brown of the Labour Party phoned Tzipi Livni to tell her she's still welcome in Britain and that they would work to change the law that allows British courts to issue warrants for alleged war crimes to the suspects around the world. And what of the people in this country who show their solidarity with the people of Palestine? What of the people who are disgusted at the murder of 1,400 Gazans in the matter of weeks? During the assault, demonstrations took place across the country. The biggest were in London, outside the Israeli embassy. They happened spontaneously and on a daily basis. People representing so many different sections of society standing together in protest, as is their human right. The police reacted with obscene brutality. On one of the marches to the embassy, the police redirected the demonstrators through an underpass. Riot police then came to the front, blocked the underpass, and started clubbing people. Bloodied heads, broken fingers. It was so clear that the riot police were provoking a reaction. On a separate occasion, I was hit, luckily only once with a baton, but it was from behind. And I was standing still by myself, just looking at the crowd, yeah? And I could hear the guy who hit me growling through his helmet. Like he was looking at me like that, growling, with his shield and his baton. Other people were much less fortunate. In all, 119 people, mostly youth and predominantly Muslim, have been arrested in connection to the demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy, while Israel's Operation Cast Lev condemned 1,400 Gazans to death. At the same time, 33 complaints of police misconduct were registered to the IPCC and have all been dropped, including the underpass incident, which was very well documented. It is in this light that we must consider the sentences that have already been passed and which are expected to get worse as the trials which began only a month ago continue. The youngest arrested was 12. Most of the arrested were 16 to 20 years old. Many are 15. The vast majority are charged with violent disorder, which has a maximum penalty of 5 years in jail. A couple will be charged with actual bodily harm of an acting police officer. Most of the arrests took place an entire year after the demonstrations. Police arrested people in their homes in dawn raids, handcuffing entire families and confiscating electronic material. No doubt the occupied people of Iraq, Afghanistan and Palestine and the north of Ireland can relate to this kind of treatment. No doubt many asylum seekers in this country can also relate to this kind of treatment. Judge Dennis cited the trial's international relevance as a justification to take the passports of all the defendants. 2 women aged 18 and 19 are in jail for 15 months. One of them has been moved from a London prison to Bristol, miles away from her family. A Palestinian man, who days before had seen images in the press of his 2 cousins' dead bodies in Gaza, will be jailed for 2 years for violent disorder. A studying dentist will spend a year in prison for throwing a plastic bottle in the direction of the embassy. As the trials continue, the picture is set to look increasingly bleak. The 1-year gap between a demonstration and surprise arrest has been effective in removing any threat of the now foiled complaints to the IPCC from affecting the trials. The complete absence of any mobilization has further isolated the families and friends of those arrested, some of whom don't even know where their loved ones in, which prisons their loved ones are in. There are a number of crucial lessons to be learned, especially when comparing the way activists had a framework of support during the climate camp demonstrations previously. There was no framework on the Gaza demos. They were indeed spontaneous, but the utter lack of legal advice on the demonstration forced individuals to take the initiative of drafting and disseminating advice to the demonstrators. But it was too little, too late. Now though, we must do what we can to ensure that judgments aren't passed in silence. Judge Dennis actually says that he is sentencing the mostly Muslim defendants to send a message to their community. Therefore, we will send our own message. The incarcerated Gaza demonstrators are not alone. They will not be made an example of by the state. We will not be intimidated into accepting the brutality of imperialism. The incarcerated Gaza demonstrators are heroes who are being punished for their humanity. We must not allow the prisoners to be isolated or to regret their actions. Their families must not go through the fear of losing their loved ones in a jail system which will completely alter their lives. The British state cannot crush us and sweep us under the rug. but it's very important that we do have a presence on the street to tell people about the links that we as human beings in this country have a direct link with Palestinian people, because British businesses and the British state has a direct link with the Israeli state. Finally, I will end by saying that if we can't already see it, imperialism has shown us time and again that we are intrinsically connected to the exploited of the world. Imperialism criminalizes those of us who show solidarity and love to the oppressed, while guaranteeing safe passage to war criminals, torturers and thieves. It is our duty to look at Venezuela and Bolivia for doing what we should have been in a position of doing, kicking out the Israeli embassies out of our country. It is our duty also to look at Cuba, because I have spoken to Palestinian students in Cuba studying medicine and specializing in limb replacement, because that is what the Intifada required of them.
Well, I'm a Zimbabwean myself, and obviously the battle that we've been fighting in Zimbabwe against colonialism and imperialism has been going on for a very long time and is still ongoing. How do we manage to maintain a grounding in what's true and what's right and wrong? Because I think it's very easy to be sucked in and overwhelmed by the massive information, the propaganda, the threats, and so on.
You don't need to really, go into every single detail of every single UN resolution to know that what the Israeli army is doing in the West Bank and in Gaza is wrong. And to see that the way the asylum seekers are handled in this country, in detention centres, and the way they're being treated.
I think one of the things that we can take from this meeting, or one of the things I can recommend, is make this part of your vocabulary, make this part of your life at the end of the day. When you leave this place, this meeting, it's not the end until you go to another meeting or until you read an article. I feel it is our duty for this to be always in our mouths. Almost every scenario I'm in, I'll be talking about politics. And I realize to some people I may look like a maniac now because I always come back down to politics. But at the end of the day, I think it's my duty to put that in there every time, because I want to be thinking about it every time, all the time. So when I do hear about a demonstration and I think, oh, there's only going to be 15 people, I don't really want to go to that. I can't allow myself to think that way, because I think that's one of the reasons why events aren't so big, because we think, oh, it's not going to be that big, or it's not going to be that powerful, or whatever. It's that doubt, that lack of self-belief, which is stopping us from doing things like that. So I just think it's important for us to constantly be on point. Let's not mess around anymore. This is real. Our responsibility is clear on this planet, I think. So yeah, all the time, every time, be on it, talk about it, read about it, see how you can incorporate yourself into it. It's very crucial. We need it so badly, so badly.